Boker Tov. I'm Rabbi Shaner here with Temple Sinai, and I'm excited to spend this part of our morning together. This is Boker Tov, our daily chance to connect, reflect, and remember together as a community. I'll begin in just a second here with a simple prayer of gratitude for the fact that we are here and that we have managed to reach this moment and been able to come together. In order to do that, we have to acknowledge the miracle that is our body and our spirit, which allows us to be present. And so we'll begin with a prayer of gratitude for ourselves, for our bodies. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher atzar et haadam bechokma uvaravo nekavim nekavim chalulim chalulim galui v'yado lifnei chisech vodecha שאם יפתח אחד מהם או יסתם אחד מהם אי אפשר להתקיים ולעמוד לפניך ברוך אתה אדוני רופא כל בשר ומפלי לעשות. Blessed eternal God, ruler of the universe, you have fashioned our bodies with wisdom, creating within us a finely balanced network. To stand before you in prayer is itself a fragile miracle. Eternal God, we praise you as the healer of body and spirit. And we continue with a prayer of gratitude for the opportunity that presents us each day to stretch our minds and our hearts with the words of our tradition, the blessing for engaging in the study of Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah v'ha'arev na Adonai Eloheinu et divrei Toratcha b'finu u'b'fi amcha Beit Yisrael v'niyeh anachnu v'tze'etzaenu v'tze'etza'ei amcha Beit Yisrael kulanu yod'ei shmecha v'lomdei Toratecha lishma. Baruch atah Adonai hamelamed Torah le'amo Yisrael. Blessed eternal God, creator of the universe, you sanctify our lives with mitzvot and command us to engage in Torah study. Eternal our God, may your words of Torah be sweet to us, and let every generation, young and old, the whole family of Israel, come to know you through the study of Torah for its own sake. Eternal God, we praise you as the teacher of Torah to the people of Israel. And we engage in those words of Torah with words from our Mishnah, the words of the rabbinic tradition, which teach us about particular obligations or commitments that we show up for, which help us to realize our human potential. אלו דברים שאין להם שיעור, שאדם אוכל פירותיהם בעולם הזה, והקרן קיימת לו לעולם הבא, ואלו הן. These are the obligations whose value cannot be measured. They nourish us in this world and help us to create the world to come. Kibud av va'em, to honor fathers and mothers. Ugmilut chasadim, to perform acts of love and kindness. V'hashkamat Beit HaMidrash shacharit ve'arvit, to attend the house of study morning and evening. V'hachnasat orchim, to welcome the stranger. Uvikur cholim, to visit the sick. V'hachnasat kala, to provide for brides and grooms. Ulevayat hamet, to keep faith with the dead. V'yun tfilah, to pray with sincerity. V'hava'at shalom ben adam lachavero, to make peace where there is strife. V'talmud Torah keneged kulam, and the study of Torah is equal to them all. We engage in a mitzvah of reciting the Shema every single morning as a way of fulfilling our commitment to remember that we are all connected, that we are part of a larger whole, and that everything that exists is connected to a single point, the point that God is one. So we will recite this Shema together. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך. וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת עליהם, ועשו להם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורותם, ונתנו על ציצית הכנף פתיל תכלת. והיה לכם לציצית, וראיתם אותו, וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני, ועשיתם אותם. ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם, ואחרי עיניכם, אשר אתם זונים אחריהם. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Adonai Elohechem Emet. This morning we'll continue with our learning of the Hebrew Aleph Bet and the lessons that the letters themselves, the shape and the form and the order of the letters, have to teach us. And this morning we have a very important letter. There's a reason that I say before we recite the Shema that everything is connected to a single point. In the Jewish mystical tradition, that single point is represented by the letter that we learned today, the letter Yod, the 10th letter of the Aleph Bet, which is also paradoxically the smallest, tiniest little letter in the whole alphabet. And so if you'll just give me a second here, we'll see on our chart that the letter Yod, the 10th letter of the Aleph Bet, if you see down here on the left, I'm circling it with my cursor, that it doesn't look the same in its Ketav Ashurit, its Assyrian script, where it is this small point, a little curve, and in the original Hebrew Aleph Bet, the Ketav Ivri. In the pictograph and in the Ketav Ivri, which you can see right here, the letter Yod is not so small, and actually it is a representation of the word Yad, the Hebrew word for an arm going to work or throwing something. An arm that it's a very dynamic letter and not a tiny point. But the Ketav Ashuri, the Assyrian alphabet that has come to represent the language of Hebrew and has come to represent the tradition of Torah, changes this throwing arm, this dynamic consonant, into a tiny point. And I think that the reason for that is that the letter Yod, grammatically speaking, is the weakest of all of the letters in the Hebrew alphabet. It is often absorbed into its surrounding letters, such that we don't write it out half of the time when it appears in the root of a word. And when we do write it out, it's often absorbed vocally into the vowel, so that we don't hear it pronounced. And despite that weakness, that apparent flimsiness, that disappearing act of the yod, which is sometimes a consonant and sometimes a vowel, and doesn't really stand on its own 2 feet. Nevertheless, the letter yod is not, it's not numerically the smallest number. In fact, it has a very strong number attached to it. It's the number 10. And besides that, it comes to represent some very important concepts in our tradition. And so one of those is the name of God itself, the 4-letter name, Yod He Vav He, which we say Adonai. The first letter, Yod, is a representation of God's presence. And when we look at the Aleph Bet, especially in the Torah Stam script, we start to notice the Yod is everywhere. It's not just in the letter itself, which you see here, but if we start to look at the way that all of these letters are written, we see the Yod here in Aleph, and we see the little tip of the Yod here on Bet, and here on the Gimel, and here again on He, and on the top of the letter Zayin, and on both sides of the letter Chet. It's everywhere. It's ever present. And the Kabbalah tradition, the mystical tradition of Judaism, notices this, letter Yod, this tiny point, this apparently small thing, and says that it's actually with this letter Yod that God created the universe, that it represents the first point of creation, the point from which God contracted God's self in what we call tzimtzum, the act of retreating to make space for the universe to exist, and that everything that exists was contained in that tiny point. This story about the way that the universe was created is a bit mystical for my taste, but I think that it's represented well in another story that I like to tell, which is a story of the town of Chelm in Poland, a town which is renowned for a Jewish community that was absorbed in silly questions. And one of those questions, over which the town of Chelm almost tore itself apart trying to find the answer, was the question of how do we grow? How do people grow? One side of the town believed that people must grow from the feet up, and the other side of town believed that people must grow from the head down. And when they argued about it, they would bring evidence. The feet up people would say, look at these soldiers marching by. You see how all of their heads are at different levels, but their feet all touch the ground? It's proof. People grow from the ground up. And the head down people would say, no, you're looking in the wrong spot. Look at the legs of their pants. The legs of some of the soldiers' pants come down and cover their ankles completely. The legs of the pants on other soldiers barely reach their shin. And what do we learn from that? That people must grow from the head down. And when they went to the rabbi of Chelm, the rabbi said, no, you have it all wrong. People don't grow from the head down or the feet up. They grow from the inside out. And what do we learn from this story? It's that really all of us start as a single tiny point. We all begin with this dot, this pintel yid that is deep inside of us. And wherever we grow, whatever direction our lives take, that little dot is still with us. It's still present in there. And when we lose our way, when we feel like we don't know what direction to go next, the letter Yod is there, that little dot, which actually represents the self. It is the letter which we take from the word ani, which means me or I, and we place it on the end of verbs in Hebrew to indicate a relationship to ourself. And so that little point, it's always there with us. It's ever present. And despite its apparent weakness and its apparent smallness, it makes a big difference. And so when we lose our way, we can always turn back and try and find that tiny point, that point that guided us from the start, and know that that is also part of God's presence in the universe, that it's the point to which everything connects. So with that, we turn our thoughts now to those who are struggling to find their way to that single point, to that tip of the yod, that point which keeps them connected to this world and to this life, whether they are ill or isolated or working hard to keep the rest of us safe and healthy. We offer a prayer for their health and healing so that they may make a full recovery. Mishaberach avotenu Avraham, Yitzchak veYaakov, ve'imotenu Sarah, Rivka, Leah veRachel, hu yirapeh et kol makotenu. V'yehi ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu lahachal imam u'lerapotam, v'yishlach lanu mehera refuah shlema v'ateret shalom, v'nomar Amen. May the one who blessed our fathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and our mothers Sarah, Rebecca, Leah, and Rachel heal all who suffer. May it be your will to provide healing and strength and to guard us from illness, to reveal to us the holiness of life, the wholeness of shalom. And let us say together, Amen. Well, we've come to the moment in our morning where we turn our thoughts to those who showed us the way to live and who have shaped our lives, and yet who are no longer with us in a physical way. This morning, we remember and offer condolences to the families of those who died in recent days and weeks. Judy Gabay, Helene Frankie Springer, Margot Grosbein, Rabbi Mark Shapiro, Janice Siegel, Bella Yakubovich, Edith Grossman, and Terry Fern Rossman. And we also remember on this 22nd of Av, Wednesday, August 12th, those who died at this time in years past. This morning we remember Samuel Glass, Abraham Goldstein, Pamela Greenspan, Henry Collin, Jack Corrine, Cy Mann, Mario Ringler, and Fanny Wine. Zichronam livracha. May their memories always bring us blessing, as we turn towards sanctified by memory, words glorified by hope, the words of Kaddish Yatom. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemeh rabba, be'alma divrach iruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayei chon u'v'yomei chon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'izman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehe shmeh rabba mevarach le'alam le'almei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmeh dekudsha berichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'moromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who remember. And let us say together, Amen. Well, it's been wonderful to spend this morning together, to have this chance to connect, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. I hope you'll join us as we approach Shabbat. This week we have a Shabbat Mishpacha Zoom for our young families coming up at 5 o'clock on Friday, as well as our regular Shabbat services at 6:30 on Friday evening and 10 a.m. Friday morning. And we look forward to seeing you here on our Boker Tov stream at 8:30 every morning during the week. And so with that, I'll say have a great week, a Shavua Tov. This is the last moment that I think I really get to say that as we turn towards Shabbat. And get out there and make it a great day. Boker Tov.